I'm reading news. And I'm falling into the rabbit hole. I keep going deeper and deeper. And I can't seem to stop.
A few moments later.
That's right. The election has been rigged. Trump won. What am I doing to myself? How can I stop? That's it. Burst my bubble. With Burst My Bubble, I realized how much of a filter bubble I was locked in. With its help, now I know that I've been reading too many sensationalized articles with only one-sided, biased opinions on a single topic. I read so many articles with the same opinion? This filter bubble is dangerous. With the help of Burst My Bubble, now I can find articles which do not sensationalize and appeal to my emotions. I can find articles with different topics and different opinions. It recommends me articles on the topic I've been reading, but has a different point of view.
A few moments later.
Now that I've read a few articles, let me go back and check my status. Great! Now I don't seem to be consuming biased opinions anymore. Instead, I'm reading rational articles from different topics with various opinions. Who knew it was this easy? Burst My Bubble takes my input on whether the articles I've recently read had similar or different views on a topic. With the help of this survey, Burst My Bubble can give me more accurate information on how much of a filter bubble I'm suffering from. Burst My Bubble.
Hi, this is Michael from Team 13. I'm here to introduce you to the project Burst My Bubble. Burst My Bubble is a Chrome extension that helps you combat filter bubble created by curated content. Burst My Bubble analyzes the news articles you've been reading and tries to understand the relationships between them. If you're reading articles from a single topic, if the article is too sensationalized, or if they share or differ in opinion or topic. We've all heard of the phrase filter bubble, but what does it mean? When we are exploring the internet and digesting pieces of information from a variety of sources, and as online services try to give you content that you might like, you end up in an echo chamber of similar opinions, polarizing your view on a subject to an extreme. Burst My Bubble tries to combat this unhealthy method of news consumption by alerting you when filter bubbles start to form and skew your opinion. So what makes up a filter bubble? What are the different types of a filter bubble? How does Burst My Bubble understand there is a filter bubble? Our team has categorized filter bubble into 3 types of bias. First, topic bias. This occurs when you're reading only about a certain type of articles on a single topic. Second is sentiment bias. This occurs when you're reading too many articles that are too sensationalized, emotional, and provocative. Last but most importantly, opinion bias. This occurs when on a single topic you're reading articles that are similar opinion. We feel that this type of filter bubble is the most dangerous kind as it puts you into an echo chamber of similar thoughts and polarizes your views. The goal of Burst My Bubble is to quantifiably measure these biases and give users feedback, alerting them that they might be subjected to a filter bubble. Also, not only stop at alerting the users, but also give them a solution by recommending articles that counter the biased state that the user is in. It's also important to mention that in Burst My Bubble's job to alert the user that they might be caught in a filter bubble, but ultimately it's the user's choice whether or not to try and burst out of it. We aim to let the user make a conscious choice when consuming news articles, rather than an informed, guided decision. Let's overview what kinds of techniques to achieve our goal and implement our extension. To analyze the different biases, we took the help of Google NLP API and we created a custom algorithm with a basis on crowdsourcing, which will be explained in detail later. In more details, we used basic HTML, CSS, and JS to make a Chrome extension with the help of Extensionizer. On the back end, we have some JS and Python code to get news article information and to utilize Google NLP. We're using Firebase to store data about the articles. Let's take a look at how we measure and try to combat each type of bias. In order to measure topic bias, we use the category analysis from Google NLP API, which takes the text input from the articles to categorize the text into categories shown on the right. There are many subdivisions in those categories which were too numerous to list. The categories align with the different types of news topics, which made it even more useful for us to use. Here's Burst My Bubble strategy on how to resolve biased state of topics. Let's think of a user who reads a lot about people and society or business and industrial. When such a user reads many articles about a similar topic, we caution the user and try to recommend an article from a different topic. To measure sentiment bias, we use sentiment analysis of the same Google API, which analyzes an article sentence by sentence and aggregates the total level of sentiment in the article. Shown is an excerpt from our code, which presents the sentiment level ranging from bland to spicy and colored appropriately to visually represent the levels of sentiment in the article. While resolving topic bias aims for diversification of the topics you read, sentiment bias does not need to be equally distributed along the scale of varying sentiments. We think it's problematic to keep looking for more sensationalized articles that call to your emotions rather than your reasoning, marked as spicy by Burst My Bubble. Therefore, we alert the users if they read many articles that are hot or spicy and suggest articles of similar topics that are less emotional in the target area. Lastly, opinion bias is different from the previous two biases in the sense that bias has to be measured in the relationship between two articles, not every article individually. We turned to the wisdom of the crowds and employed a crowdsourcing solution to measure the similarity in the opinions of two articles a user has read in the past, with the help of a simple survey as shown on the right. Articles to be shown on the survey meet the following criteria. The article on the left is the most recent article the user has read, and another article user has previously read on the right. The right one is also chosen with the help of Google NLP API by checking if the articles share a similar entity set with the one on the left, making sure the two articles share a common topic. With responses from many users, we obtain the opinion similarity score, which is the ratio of answers they say yes, they're similar, to the total number of responses. We can use this score as a confidence score if the articles have similar opinions or not. We alert the user if they've been reading articles which share a similar opinion. If so, we alert the user that the past few articles they've been reading have a high similarity and recommend articles which have low opinion similarity scores on the same topic, trying to show another perspective on the issue the user is reading about. We've seen how Burst My Bubble measures and tries to resolve the three different types of bias. However, as a short project with limited resources, we met a few limitations. Firstly, we manually limited the number of articles to analyze with the API. We knew we were going to have a limited number of users to test on and to see if our method of obtaining opinion similarity was okay. Hence, we wanted to keep the number of articles small so that we can ask many users the same survey question and gain insight on our algorithm. If enough people collectively decide opinion similarity score, is it confidently correct? In an ideal situation, we would use libraries like Newspaper 3K to crawl articles from websites a user is visiting and log every article onto our database and analyze each and every one of them, and hire mTurk workers to gather information about the data points on opinion similarity score. Since we did not implement live analysis of articles a user is reading, we could not give direct suggestions as the user consumed news articles. We think of our current status of Burst My Bubble as a testing phase where we test our app on a limited number of articles we present on the Feed tab and measure and analyze the biases on these selected articles which we know that they share similar topics because we chose them so. Of course, using such a selected feed of limited articles is not reflective of a real-world user experience, but it is a necessary step towards making our app work properly. As mentioned before, we're using the wisdom of crowds to obtain opinion similarity scores. However, as the number of articles increases, the number of surveys we need to ask increase with the time of O of n squared, which is feasible to scale up. So a thought for consideration can be if we can use AI to determine the opinion similarity scores, or if we can group articles into clusters with a much easier method than asking people every single relationship with high enough of confidence to deduce the similarities between articles. As stipulated before, maybe opinion similarity scores could be deduced directly with enough confidence to predict the actual opinion similarity scores correctly, but we haven't had the time and resources to put this to test. Nonetheless, it's an interesting question to ask. Burst My Bubble was an insightful project to work on for this semester. This has been Michael from Team 13. Thank you for listening to our presentation.